Hello, my loves. Today we are going to be doing a science lesson about this beautiful animal right over here. And what kind of animal are we going to be talking about today? What is this? It's a fish, right? And I drew it in orange because I want it to look like a goldfish. Have you guys ever heard of a goldfish? Some of you might have one as a pet, or maybe a friend has one as a pet, or if you've ever gone to a fair and they have that game where you could throw the ping pong balls into a cup and win a fish, you might have seen one there, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about fish today and a little bit more about them on Wednesday. But what I want you to look here is we're going to be naming and labeling the parts of a fish. And you at home have a paper that looks like this, okay? So you're going to need to take this paper out today to work on. And it's all about labeling the parts of a fish. And since you guys work with Writer's Workshop, you're going to be pros at labeling because we did that label so much in the beginning of the year, okay? So what labeling means for this is we're going to draw little lines from the parts of the body that we want to talk about and then write the word that belongs to that part. So there are 6 things that we need to talk about today. And I'm going to go through the really easy ones first, and then we'll talk about those that are a tiny bit harder. And you might already know them because you're already so smart, right? So one of the things we need to talk about, the parts of a fish, are these right here. His eyes, okay? So we are going to label his eyes like this. We're going to draw a line, boop, from his eye. So you would draw it on your paper, and I'm just doing it on my big chart so it's easier for you to see. You would draw a line out from his eye, and you would write the word eyes. And you might need help knowing exactly which word is which in the little word bank that they give you, okay? If you look here, it has a word bank, which are all the things you need to label. So the first thing we labeled is eyes. Now on my picture, we only see one eye. But how many eyes does a goldfish have? 2, right? Exactly. Now the next part, another easy peasy part. What's this little smile here, right? What is this? We're going to call that his mouth, right? So I'm going to draw a line from his mouth, and I'm going to write the word. And if I'm super smart and I'm doing this by myself, and I'm using that word bank, I can say mouth, mouth. And I can see, oh, right there, that word starts with an M. That must be mouth, right? Okay, couple more easy peasy ones, right? The next easy one, this whole part right here, which it doesn't exactly have it closed off or anything, this is his what? His head, right? So I'm going to draw, maybe I'll point like right here in the middle because the whole thing is kind of his head, right? So I'm going to point in the middle, I'm going to draw a big line up, and I'm going to look in my word bank for the word head, which starts with the letter H. Okay, and in my word bank, it tells me how to spell it. So there's his head, his eyes, and his mouth. Now another part of a fish, and lots of animals have these, is this thing right here. What do we call that part of a fish, or even on a dog or a cat? They have this part as well. Only theirs is a little longer, skinnier, and wags, huh? Can you guess what this part is called? Their tail. Tail. So I'm going to draw a line from my tail. I'm going to look in my word bank. Which one do I think says tail? Tail starts with T, right? And we're going to write it right here. We're going to draw lines to label and point to what we're talking about, okay? Now, the next 2 parts are a little bit tricky, and you may or may not know them, okay? So we're going to start with the fin. Now, the fin is this top part up here, and these little parts that stick out the sides. Those are a fish's fin, and they are what helps them kind of glide through the water and swim. So we are going to label his fin. And if you've ever seen Finding Nemo, do you know what Nemo has? He has one side, right? One of his fins is little, and he calls it his lucky fin, right? I don't know if you've ever seen Finding Nemo, but maybe you should, huh? All right, and the last thing, and this is what we're going to actually learn a little bit about right now. So the last part of our fish that we need to label is the gills. Now, if you have ever heard of what a gill is, maybe you've watched Bubble Guppies and there is a character named Gil, but I don't see my Gil from the Bubble Guppies on here, do you? Mm-mm. So the gill are actually these little, they look like bubbles on him. And on some fish, they might look like lines, like straight lines up and down. And the gills are actually how a fish can breathe underwater. So we need air to breathe. Fish need water to breathe. And that is how they breathe, through their gills. It helps them to breathe. So we're going to label right to the gill, and we are going to label gills, okay? So gills help him breathe, and fins help him to swim, right? Then we talked about his eyes, right? They would probably help him see. His mouth could help him eat, and his tail also helps him swim. It kind of goes back and forth, right? So after you have done that on your paper, you draw the lines and label your parts of a fish. Then you're going to think about something that Miss Noble said during this little video that you learned today. Maybe you learned that fish need water to breathe, okay? Maybe you learned that fins help them swim, okay? Maybe you learned that you can win a goldfish at a carnival. Whatever you learned, I want you to write down on the bottom where it says, I learned, okay? So label your goldfish. Write down what you learned, and then we'll read more about, I'll read to you more about goldfish probably either tomorrow or Wednesday. All right, boys and girls, I will see you soon. Bye.